I made a mistake. I'm a positive ease girl. Drama. Tinder for knitting.
I'm Nora, and this is also known as Nora Knits.
Hello there, I'm Nora, and you're watching, also known as Nora Knits. Thank you so much for joining me for another podcast episode today. I am so excited to talk about what I'm wearing today, as well as the final whip that I'm just trying to get done, and I am so close as we bring the Fix, Finish, Freshen Up February knit along to an end. Before we get into everything today, let me start by saying thank you so much to those of you who have participated in this very casual, very lackadaisical knit along. I know that sometimes it's just a lot easier to meet those little deadlines and those little goals when you know that there's other people who are joining you. So if you did participate in the knit along and did your best to fix, finish, freshen up, or frog a whip or whatever it is that you had to give a little extra love over the past month, I invite you to let us know what it is that you accomplished in the comments. And if you use hashtag fffFebruary in your comment, then you will automatically be entered in a little giveaway where I'm going to select 3 winners to each receive a pattern of their choice through Ravelry. So go ahead and leave those comments down below if you would like to enter for a chance to win, and I will be announcing the 3 winners in podcast number 76. So the next podcast that you see after this one, I will announce 3 winners in the video. I will never let you know in the comments that you've won. You'll only hear it from my mouth and see it on the screen in a video. So just make sure that you get those comments in before the next podcast goes up. And thank you again for participating. I certainly did not accomplish all of the goals that I had, and I will get to that a little bit later today as I tell you what I did manage to get done. But I am just letting this kind of spill into spring for me. As I said from the beginning, it was an early spring cleaning type thing. So I think now we're just moving into a little bit more of a proper spring cleaning as that March 21st, first day of spring date approaches. I would love to have a really fresh start. So feel free by all means to continue sharing what it is that you're working on. But at this point, that is the official end of the little casual knit along. So with all of that admin out of the way, I think we should go ahead and dive on in. I'm so proud to say that what I am wearing right now is my finally finished sand cardigan by Maria Isaeva of Ulan Knitwear, which was a dream project for me to create. I used Nora Madara Sake, 01 Sake, for the majority of this cardigan, and it's been over a year since I began this project. So I figured the best thing to do would be to just kind of quickly recap with a little homage to this project that has been so special and catch you up to speed with everything that went into the making of this beautiful finished garment. So this loftier goal that I have is the sand cardigan, which is an upcoming pattern from Ulan Knitwear. The yarn that I am dreaming of for this would make for the world's most expensive sweater there ever was. But we'll see. Maybe if this pushes to the spring and we could do this like around my birthday, I could consider treating myself. But basically, my vision is that Nora sake yarn that everyone is like obsessed with and it's always sold out. I knit most of the time using thrifted yarn, using sale yarn, using discounted yarn, using a lot of stash yarn, and rarely, never have I ever purchased a really expensive yarn. And so when the occasion calls for it, I'm okay with it. This was pricey. I was able to knit up a swatch, and oh my goodness, is this divine. I'm going to avoid putting a deadline on this so that I can enjoy the knitting process the whole way through without putting pressure on it. I think this looks terrific. She's so excited. This is where we're at, 23 days on the needles, and she'll be hitting the blocking mats tonight. Miss Humble came knocking on my door and said, girl, those sleeves are too big and it's all your fault. Hopefully by the next time we chat, I'm like holding up the same thing with a slightly smaller sleeve. Now we're talking. I'm just glad that it fits. We love it. Yay! Yay, sand cardigan. Woohoo! We have now completed the sort of upper body. I have knit the openings for the pockets. And from here on out, it's just knitting the length before I have the whole button band to finish. And at some point, I'll go back and finish the sleeves when I'm in the mood to do that. As of today, this project has been on the needles for 101 days. I made a ton of progress and I tried it on and actually realized this is getting close to being done. The reality is that I can't fully enclose myself in it, and I can almost even barely just overlap the front sort of panels of the cardigan. And so I decided to knit the button band just a little bit wider. This project has just been taking absolutely forever. And those of you who caught me when I said, oh, just a few more days left because all I have is the button band, you knew I was wrong. I really did not touch the sand cardigan over the past week. It has been getting chillier here, which means that in the mornings that I'm going to work, I am wishing I had a nice little layering piece to keep me warm and comfy on my way to work, which is exactly the purpose of my sand cardigan by Ullin Knitwear. Now, I'm not saying that I am actively planning on working this. I have, however, just moved it into a place where it's a little bit more in my line of sight. It's really been put away because I consciously put that one away. But I am taking that out and just having it out and around. And if there's a day when I can get a few rows done on it, then great. I haven't made an official plan yet, but I just kind of want it out in the open so that I can hopefully get working on that one again too, now that the weather officially calls for it. Another one that needs, another week or so of work. There has been a long neglected whip, and she has finally made her way out of hibernation, and we're ready to get her wrapped up. So I'm trying to figure out a system for getting the double knitting done on this without feeling like I'm doing it miserably. I am really pleased with myself that I at least did get a few inches on this done. It is a goal of mine to get this cardigan done by the end of the month. I have just been so hung up on the double knit button bands because it goes from your ankles to the back of your neck and then back down to your ankles again. So it's a lot of double knitting to do. Which project do you want to see next? The whip that's not done or the one that's about to be done? I assume you want to see the one that's pretty much done. And I'll also give you a second to guess, which project do you think is basically done? You've guessed? Okay. Let's talk about my nearly finished sand cardigan. This will be done in next week's podcast. I'm so excited about it. I'm so proud that I've been able to get this done during this knit along, and I just couldn't be more ecstatic to have this going into the spring season like I'd always thought I would. I always think it's so fun to reflect on these longer term whips, this one being the longest whip that has ever sat on my needles. And I have to say that there was a moment there I got a little bit nervous, And I'm going to tell you a pretty rookie mistake I made in choosing a size, and I don't think that I can possibly overstate how much you should never make this mistake in choosing a size for your knitwear or garments outside of your own making. But as it is today, I am pleasantly surprised, thrilled. I'd love to say that I trusted the process the whole time, but I'd be lying if I said that because I did get a little bit nervous in the before blocking. But as you're seeing this today, it has not only gone through a full soak block, but I did also hit it with the steamer. And I just use the steam function on my iron, and I've never had a problem just lightly hovering over the fabric. That for me in this piece, and with a lot of pieces, honestly, made the biggest difference. When I blocked this, I was really hoping to gain a little bit of extra room in the body because I've never actually said this out loud, but when I chose this size for this garment, this was this time last year. And as New Year's resolutions go, I was kind of like, oh, yeah, I'm going to knit this piece. And when it's done, I'm going to be a little smaller so I could get away with a little bit less yarn and a little bit of a smaller size. And as they go, that like didn't really happen. And being someone who works in the wedding industry, I have seen this more times than I can count. And so I just want to like give a quick reminder. Don't do this to yourself. You can always change the size of a garment by taking it in, by adding seams on the inside if you have to in your knitwear, outside of knitwear. Things are much easier to make smaller, but they're not very easy to make bigger. And the amount of times I have seen bridesmaids, order a dress that's a size smaller than they are right now because it's going to fit in a few months. It's just so unpredictable. And then it creates this like guilt and just unnecessary pressure when it's like things just aren't tracking that direction. So I'm glad it worked out in the end, but please learn from my mistake. That has been sitting in the back of my mind throughout the entirety of making this garment. And I'd be surprised if that didn't kind of filter into why this didn't get done as quickly as I thought it would. I mean, obviously, it's also just an ankle length cardigan, so it was never going to take a month, but there was no world in which I could have ever predicted it would take me a year to finish this thing. So please don't make that mistake. I'm glad it worked out in the end. And as it is right now, I think the fit is perfect. So I blocked it, soaked it, stretched it. I had a lot of people saying that this yarn would stretch out a lot, and I was a little bit of a doubter because I had blocked this garment before so that I could make sure that the hem was the right length. But in that, I was trying to avoid stretching it. So I stopped avoiding that. I was like, stretch this thing out. Let's see how much we can get out of it. And in doing so, while I had this laying flat on the floor, I wound up with those little kind of like pull marks, just where I had the blocking pins. So I decided to just hit it with the steamer anyway, so that I could lay it again kind of flat on its sides and just steam out the seams that I had like inevitably created by laying it flat. And oh my gosh, was that fantastic. From there, I decided to just go and give the whole double knit button bands an extra little steam and a little press with the iron, which I think really was transformative for how that lays. This yarn, it's imperfect. It's a thick and thin yarn. So a double knit button band trying to keep everything like straight and tidy, even though while I was knitting it, I was trying to give the yarn an extra twist when I'd come across those thicker points. I did kind of try to like spin them a little bit more, but even still, there was a lot of parts where it was just kind of weebly wobbly from literally the thickness and thinness of the yarn. Hitting it with the steamer and then giving it a little tug in the places that it needed, or a little push and a little shove here and there, made all the difference. I also went and did that with the cuffs on this one because these were actually really small when I first finished them. Even after blocking, the cuffs really did not grow in size, and so I just figured I'd experiment, and I literally hit them with the steamer, the steamer, just to kind of get them damp and warm. And then from there, I was literally just kind of holding them open so that they could cool. And now they fit exactly the way that I would have wanted them to. I also used the steamer to tidy up where the pocket meets the edge of the cardigan. And from the after blocking shots that you're seeing today, you'll notice that I have yet to tack those pockets down. My thought from the beginning was that I would probably just wear this around a little bit, make sure that the pockets have settled kind of in place where they're going to land. And then I'm going to do like a little crochet chain and just kind of tack them to the inside edge of the button band so that they still have plenty of wiggle room, but the cardigan won't like open and expose my hand inside of its weird little hand sock inside. So that's something I have yet to do. And also, I don't know if you'll be able to really tell, but the pockets are actually still wet. I did block this flat so that I could hopefully have those pockets and the seams where the pocket begins lay as flat as possible. But it was then just, Nora, pocket, pocket, Nora, and the outside parts dried, but the inside did not so much. So anyway, I hit all of that with the steamer again, and I think that that really helped, and I'll probably continue to just press it a little bit more once I seam these all in place and get everything really comfy. But as it is, I absolutely love it. It's exactly the vision I had. I'm wearing it today with just jeans and a black tank top, which is exactly the kind of outfit I picture wearing this with, just running out to the grocery store and looking really like put together, but it's kind of like just wearing a cozy little robe. It's just big enough now that it's been blocked that I can just kind of cover myself with it if I want to get a little cozier. But I like that when I'm walking around, it just kind of hangs open and it just creates this really nice extra layer. The main goal for this has been to have it for work mornings when I'm typically leaving the house before the sun comes up. But then by the time I get where I'm going, it's like hot as heck and I'm working with a hot tool all day. So I just wanted something that I could kind of wear in the car and be cozy in, and then still walk into a bride's space and look put together and then take it off as it gets too warm. So I think it really does check all of those boxes. Like I said, I was nervous last week. I will not lie to you. I was like, I made the wrong choice with the size on this one. But I think it actually fits quite perfectly. Let me now get into all of the final stats for this project and let's see how much this thing cost. As per usual, I'm going to make this easy and just read these numbers off of the iPad. So we are talking about, again, the Sand Cardigan by Maria Isaeva. And the pattern for this one was about $7.67, which I did buy with my own money. The yarn that I used is the Nora Madara for the body of the sweater, and then for the pockets, it's Jody Long My Little Sunshine. The Nora is the colorway 01 Sake, and then the colorway for those pockets, it's called Cuddles. Now, neither of those yarns were from Stash. They were both purchased explicitly to knit this cardigan. The yarn for the pockets at full price was $10.25. And then if you've heard of this Nora Madara before, you know that this is a luxury yarn. So this one came in at $27 a skein. And as the bargain girly, the queen of a good deal herself, I paid full price for both of these yarns, which is why I'm emphasizing the point that this was a dream knit. This was something that was kind of a gift to myself that I made last year. And that's also why I'm kind of glad that I never forced myself to work on this and always just followed when I was in the mood to, or just let it ebb and flow as it needed to, because I wouldn't want any negative memories surrounding this one of like feeling like I had to work on it and I had to get it done. So I did pay full price for everything in this cardigan. Now I tapped into a single skein of the yarn for the pockets. In total, I actually only used 40 grams for the pockets. That's a fingering weight yarn. So I think if you had scraps and you wanted to do the same thing, you could definitely use, either a 50-gram ball of yarn. I had a 100-gram ball of yarn, but I did only use 40 grams. However, if you were going to recreate this whole look, then you'd have to purchase a ball of the yarn to create the pockets the way that I did. And then for the body of this cardigan, which I knit in the size 5, I used a total of 10 skeins of the Nora yarn. I didn't have any additional expenses. So the full price yarn total as well as the price that I spent are both the same since I did not get these yarns on sale. And that means that the yarn for this garment cost me a total of $280.25 without any additional expenses like buttons or things like that. The only added expense to that for the full project total is that pattern price. So again, the full price and what I paid are both the same here. And this entire project cost me about $287.92. Woof. That was all for a project that was on my needles for 374 days, which means that the cost per day of this project was less than $1 a day, about 76 cents. And it's a splurge, it's a luxury cardigan, and I'm really happy to have it done. I'm also really excited to finally wipe it off of my WIP list. I use this app. It's just called Countdown and Up, and that is how I track the days that my projects have been on the needles. So we are officially going to go ahead and delete the sand cardigan from this list. I'm so excited. They changed the way that you delete things on here. It's officially done. I love it so much. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask me. There are a bunch of modifications that I had made along the way. But I feel like at this point, we're just beating a dead horse by talking about it anymore because it's been on the channel for over a year. So just let me know if you have any questions. I'd be happy to answer them for you. And that is the finished sand cardigan. Now let's move on. And let me actually just mention the Fix, Finish, Freshen Up February projects that I was able to accomplish since last week. The first one, which I did mention in the last podcast episode, is that I was going to freshen up my dad's birthday sweater from 2024. And so I did actually exactly what I said I was going to do, which was to just bring all of my blocking stuff over to my parents' house, and I washed it there, laid it out for him, and hopefully it's dry by now because we did that a few days ago, and I told him to just let it sit there till it was dry. So I was able to freshen that up for him. And then the other thing I was able to get done was I finished the fixes that I had to do on my yoga winter sweater. So let me just show it to you super, super quick. Here it is, the Yoga Winter Sweater by Naringa. I knit mine out of Barocco Ultra Wool and the colorway Bear. I finished this a couple months ago now, and after wearing it quite a bit, I decided that I had to add some length to the sleeves as well as alter the turtleneck. So the last time you saw this, I had finished altering that turtleneck and I'd finished one of the sleeves, and I went back and did the other. So all that's left to do here is for this to be blocked, and just because this was taking up all of the space on the blocking mats, I haven't gotten to that yet. So actually, after I film here today, I'm going to pop this one right in the bath, as well as my Sailor Swift top, which needs to be freshened up. So I'll be able to get that done today as well, because they can definitely hang out on the blocking mats together. And then the only things that I did not get done by the end of February, the knit along, although I have a couple days still to maybe get these things wrapped up, and I really should, but they're gonna get done in the coming weeks regardless, is weaving in the ends on the warm-up sweater with the stripes, and that's just such a task and a half. I've decided that there's like a really big difference between knitting and then all of the finishes that happen with knitting. You can really enjoy knitting and then not really enjoy sewing on buttons or weaving in ends. Like, those are just not the same thing at all. Installing a zipper on a quarter zip. So it's sometimes tricky because you know that in order to have the finished garment that you're ultimately so proud of and love, you really do have to go through those things. But it's hard to find the desire to want to do these non-knitting things in your knitting time. So that's why that's been the theme of the month, of just having them all available to me so that I could kind of cherry pick the things I was able to get done. And so I think that that's good practice. Maybe we should all have just a little basket or something near wherever you're knitting. And whenever there's a project that needs just a little extra attention, I do think it's a good idea to just have it sitting out and about, because there will come a day where your hands need a little break from knitting, but you still have that time. And maybe that's the moment you could weave in those ends. Or you need a little stockinette in the round and you have the time to just rip back a bind off real quick to go back and reknit the length on a sleeve or something. It's so tedious, but if you just let it sit in the back of the drawer, it never gets done. I think I'm going to implement some version of this where I have a basket just out and about, like kind of in the way, so that those things kind of keep screaming to me from the corner of the room saying, please finish me, and then I can finally wear them. So the warm-up sweater is going to be on the top of that pile, as well as my sister's Poets cardigan that I need to move the buttons and buttonholes on. I just haven't seen her, so there was no burning need to get that one done. But that's all I have left to do for Fix Finish Freshen Up February. And like I said, who knows? Maybe I'll be able to get it done by the end of the month. We'll have to wait and see. I'll keep you posted as those things do get done. So that's the Yoga Winter Sweater. That's the Fix Finish Freshen Up February update. And don't forget to leave your comment down below to enter the giveaway. All right, let us go ahead and chat about the whip that I really wanted to try and get done for today, but it simply was not happening for me. And once I accepted that, everything was okay. It's so close and yet not at all. So I think I can get it done for next week, but I wouldn't be surprised if it sticks around for one more. I don't even want to speak that though, because this should be done next week. So that is the Granada by Claudia Quintanilla. The yarn and the book where you can find this pattern were both gifted to me by Unit Toronto, and it is the Ito Sensai and Kinu. It's a silk and a silk mohair in the colorways peach and cinnamon, and it's a stockinette blouse that has crochet sleeves. And if you didn't know, I began my fiber journey with crochet, and so I've been really eager to get to the crochet sleeves, but there's something that I didn't realize, I didn't really think about beforehand, which is that I've never followed a crochet pattern. The very first thing that I ever crocheted, I did, but it was literally just like crocheting a rectangle and then kind of folding it in a funny way and seaming things up to create a cardigan of sorts. So there was no real like shaping and true patterning involved with that one. Whereas this garment has that. And I made a mistake. And I'll tell you about it. Let's get it onto Helena the Hanga, and I think we're also going to try this one on today. So let's chat. Okay, here she is, and I'm actually pleased. I think for the first time this is looking like a proper top. So I'm knitting mine in the size 4. At the moment, I am literally a row away from being done with the final increase of this slightly A-lined body, at which point I just have to knit that stockinette in the round down until the hem, which is an I-cord bind off. So definitely trying this on today will get a better idea of how much more I have to go there, though I also have to consider the fact that the neckline here is also going to have an I-cord edge, so that's probably going to help this just sit up a little bit higher. So I might want to address that before I finish the body on this one. Now, let's talk about the crochet sleeves, which really are the star of the show in this pattern. So I've finished the crochet part on the left sleeve, and then I'm in the middle of the crochet part on the right sleeve. This is where things get a little bit tricky. First of all, I'm following the pattern for this as it is written in the book Memory Lane. That's where this pattern lives. I've never actually followed a pattern from a book, so this is the first for me, but I've always heard people kind of talk about this specific thing when it comes to knitting or crocheting or following along from a book, and that is that there's limited space on the page. It can't possibly be the most intensely involved, detailed pattern. And that became mighty clear for me when I got to the sleeves. So you start by basically single crocheting around the sleeve hole that was there using a single strand of mohair and a little crochet hook. And then from there, you're basically doing like a crocheted short row, which is kind of building up a sleeve cap, all while maintaining the really cute lace and bobble pattern that's on the sleeves. Now, if you look at the photo of this pattern, you'll see that those sleeves are really big and billowy. The first kind of row that you're doing in this stitch, she tells you do this until you have however, let's just say 10 double crochet stitches, because that's what this is primarily made up of. And then after that, she just says, do this until you have this many stitches. And I was struggling to read the crochet, to read the lace, and then also was questioning it whether she meant the double crochet stitches or stitches in general, because you have space between those. And it wasn't becoming more obvious to me. So I was crocheting this sleeve and I actually wound up making a mistake where I just skipped a row in the lace pattern, and I saw that and I went to rip back. I've also never ripped back in mohair before. So nothing happened when I tried to do that. And I wound up, it was only a couple of rows. I wound up just cutting it because there was no way I was going to be able to rip back this mohair crochet situation. So from that moment, I was like, don't make any more mistakes because we're not doing that again. I mean, it was a big waste of mohair. And I got to the bottom of the sleeve cap. I finished the instructions and got to the point where she says now to just crochet the lace pattern in the round. And I did that. And I was like, this sleeve looks kind of snug. It just doesn't look as big and billowy as I would have pictured it to be. And then when you reach the end of the crochet bit, there's this ribbing that's quite a tall ribbing. It kind of comes up the forearm. And prior to that, you're supposed to decrease in the crochet. And at this point, what she was telling me to do in the pattern to decrease was going to leave me with a little hole for my arm about this big. So that's when I knew I really messed up. But again, what was I don't know. So then I started the next sleeve and ultimately decided, I think every time she mentioned keep doing that thing and now you should have this amount of stitches, she really did mean double crochet stitches. I just couldn't comprehend why the first time she would say double crochet stitches and then the next time just stitches. So I started counting basically all of the double crochet posts and all the stitches in between, which if you're mathing with me means that I have half the amount of stitches from basically the front of the shoulder to the back. I kind of realized that halfway through this sleeve, but again thought I can't rip this one back. And that's a big waste of mohair. I don't know. So at that point, I just said, okay, you have to commit. So I did my best to replicate what I had done as a mistake on this sleeve, on this one. And at this point where I am, I just have another set of the like bobble rows to go, plus the couple of in-between rows after that. So I'm pretty close to being done with the crochet part on this sleeve. And I've never tried this on, so we're gonna try it on today. I hope that this still fits and works for me. Um, I don't know what plan B is if it doesn't. So we're going to find that out today. And then the only other thing that I want to make sure I mention is that because I realized that if I did the decreases, the sleeve was going to be so tiny, I just didn't do the decreases. And I hoped that maybe this still works out, that I could just pick up the ribbing with the amount of stitches that I have in the crochet, and we'll kind of just see how it goes. I understand why things can't be more thorough. I almost feel like this is a situation though where we could have used like a video tutorial, because let me say it right now, if you are not familiar with crochet, this isn't the first project I would dive into. It's really tricky. Not only just following the pattern is one thing altogether, shaping it's tricky, but then also to see your little mohair slip stitch on the same color on the body. I was just shoving that huck into the abyss and hoping for the best. And we're going to see how that pays off. So we're going to throw this one onto some try it on tubing and try it on and see if it's working. I really hope it still works. If the sleeves aren't the most puffy, that wouldn't bother me so much. I think if anything, it would probably make this more wearable because it was otherwise like a pretty flouncy special piece. So maybe I've just made it a little, more casual. We're going to find out. Let me get her off the hanger so we could get it onto some try it on tubing. If you're new here, I do like to just answer some questions while I am switching my project from the needles onto some try it on tubing. So that's what I'll be doing while I go through a few questions that you guys have asked on Instagram, and we'll just get to know each other a little bit better. So let us go ahead and begin the try it on tubing and chat. All right, I did just ask for some fresh questions that you guys wanted me to answer, and I'm not going to answer them in any particular order. I'll maybe try to skim and see if there was anything that came up more than once, but let's see what you guys wanted to know. Let's see. Okay, so not knitting related. If you could eat one food for the rest of your life, what would it be? If we're talking one food, that would taste only. So this is just like, we're not talking if I had to survive off of one food, just the one food that I wish I could eat every meal of every day and I could never get tired of. It's a very easy answer. And if any of my family's watching right now, you guys can all scream it out. Grilled cheese. I love grilled cheese. It's my favorite thing in the world to eat. To this day, as an adult, I'll eat a grilled cheese sandwich anytime, anywhere. Now, okay, the next question I thought is kind of funny because there's more than one person who asked this, and I have to say it kind of made me tear up when I saw it. Because this is so something that's on my mind and is a goal of mine, and the fact that anyone is already like asking about it, it's a very, very cool feeling. It makes me feel like I'm headed in the right direction. So the question in a nutshell is, are you interested in designing? When's your first pattern coming out? I'd love to get into designing. And maybe on that note, if you have any resources of just sort of like ways to get started with that, the ideas are all there. It's just the execution and picking one and really committing to it. But it's definitely on my mind. It's something I would love to achieve. I think it's a natural progression for somebody who likes modifying patterns. So it's definitely something that I like to do, and I'm very grateful that there's anyone asking about it already anyway, so thank you. A non-knitting question, and I do get asked this all of the time. Where did OC's name come from? So OC is our little cockapoo poo puppy. She's not really so much of a puppy anymore, actually. She's gonna be 5 this year. And her name is Osi. It's actually short for Osita, which is little bear. She looks like a little teddy bear. I think she looks like a little Teddy Graham, actually. So it means it's essentially bear in Spanish. And so yeah, she's little Osita. This is a really interesting question. Do you still feel like a beginner knitter? And that's interesting because I'm inclined to say yes. I started knitting on January 1st of 2023. So I've now been through 2 full years of knitting, and then this is my 3rd year entering as a knitter. So I kind of feel like I have 1 year of just learning and discovering under my belt. I have another year, of course, where those things did carry over, but also I kind of was harnessing my power a little bit more last year and feeling a little bit more confident in just navigating choices and taking some risks and things. So now in my 3rd year of knitting, I feel like I'm kind of combining all of that into this like still accepting and appreciating the fact that with every project, I seriously learn something new and therefore still feel very much like a beginner, but at the same time, understanding and accepting that I have developed my skills quite a bit and I'm moving more fearlessly than I have ever before in my knitting. So it's hard to say. There's so many areas where I still feel like a beginner, but I think at the same time, it's just a healthy perspective of feeling like I know so much and I've learned so much, and so I can feel confident in saying I'm a qualified knitter. But also, I think anyone at any stage in the craft, there's so much to learn still. So I think I walk a fine line where I do and I don't. Last one here, it says, what is a type of yarn that you have used that you dislike? And there's things about a lot of the yarns that I've used that I've liked and disliked. But I think that the standouts for me are the Barocco Ultra Wool, which the Yoga Winter Sweater was knit in. It's not something I'd purchase again. I have quite a bit of it in my stash because it was on like mega sale when a local yarn store was closing. And so I'm happy to have played with it, but I think that I'm going to avoid that brand in the future just because I don't love the feeling of the knitting experience. It feels very like chemically and borderline acrylic-y. I think that's just the superwash treatment that wool in particular receives that doesn't jive so well with my knitting experience. And otherwise, off the top of my head, other yarns that I've disliked, it's kind of hard to say. I actually think I've been pretty lucky, other than choosing the wrong yarns for for certain projects. And especially, I think I'm going to be mindful in the future, and it's, again, learning as you go, just choosing yarns that are going to hold their weight a little bit better. That was something we talked about a little bit last week with the grayling dress, and you'll hear me talk a lot more about that in my least worn knits video that's coming out soon. So definitely fiber choice just in the way that the weight is carried. And then yeah, that Barocco Ultra Wool just sticks out because I'm trying to figure out a way to make it feel better, which we're actually going to talk about even some more later. Okay, she's on the needles. She's off the needles. She's on the try it on tubing. And let's try this thing on. We can end the try it on tubing and chat. I am going to throw this on top of my black top, which also this mohair sheds like nothing else. Again, I don't work with mohair all the time, so this might just be all mohair, but I think because this one's such a light color, it's on everything. It's everywhere. All right, let me throw this on for you. Okay. Okay. My goodness. Could you imagine if I just left the sleeves where they are? They're like a full 3/4 length sleeve right now. All right. The good news is I got her on. She fits. Let me say too, I did not choose this color. Unfortunately, if I had a say in the color, I would have gone for something different. I do know that if I do my makeup accordingly, if I know I'm going to wear this color and I kind of play it up with like some peachy tones and stuff, it does look a lot better. I'm sure right now it's washing me out quite a bit, but that's something I just have to be aware of when I'm wearing this. So you can totally see that I knit the sleeves at the wrong size, but they still fit. Now, having it on, I'm assuming that because they are so fitted, the length that she told me to knit them to in the pattern, it feels like that wasn't quite right. I'm probably going to go back because this is the finished sleeve and this is the one still in progress. So let's refer to this one. I still have to, it's very soft. I think I will go in and add another full kind of repeat of this lace row. So the little baubles that you see, I will do another set of baubles. And then maybe just another, no, that's actually about right. Another set of baubles with the additional double crochet, just plain rows. And then I'll start that ribbing because it'll still be quite a deep ribbing. And I think if I do that, then when I block this, I can really kind of try to play up the drama and the volume of the sleeves, and you'll still get that bit of flounce at the bottom where it meets the ribbing. So that I think is a good idea. As far as everything up here, this fits me like an actual glove. This might be the best fitting garment I've ever made, and that's really interesting because I haven't tried it on before, and I really don't tend to knit or wear just out in real life. I'm a positive ease girl. So I love the way that this is fitting right now. And I think that it brings a really nice youthful element. That's also why for me, I'm not knitting the crocheted collar. I just think it would swallow me up. And I'm really excited to just have a really clean stockinette or sorry, I-cord edge on this one. So what am I missing from it? It's the drama of the puff sleeve. But like I said, struggled reading the pattern a little bit and then couldn't rip out the mohair. It fits, so I'm happy as a clam. I think it's a lot more wearable like this. In fact, I might even go a little bit longer on the crochet than I even just said to ensure that there's a little bit of a flounce there so that all of that kind of puff and drama I'm missing from the top, I'll get at the bottom. But I actually think this looks really nice. I do have one more point to make while I have this on because I'm seeing it now. And this is again, I think why I'm saying if you've never crocheted before, I wouldn't start here. The beginning of round, the way that I interpreted the pattern, it's very obvious that there's a beginning of round here. What's nice is that on this sleeve, it winds up on the back of the sleeve, so at least you don't see it as much. But definitely on the front, I can see that there's kind of a straight line where everything else in this lace is kind of brick laid. But I think that that just comes back again to if this was a standalone pattern and not in the book, I think that she might have said for your left sleeve, kind of have that beginning of round in the back, but it just has the same instructions for both sleeves. But otherwise, it feels really nice. I love how lightweight this is. I'm just talking about heavy sweaters. It's been an issue for me, and this just feels really breezy and really spring appropriate. And I think with some, I have this peach blush that I like to wear, but it kind of clashes with a lot of my wardrobe. So I think it'll look really nice with this. And I'm actually really happy and pleasantly surprised because I was so nervous when I realized I have half the amount of stitches I should from here to here. So I kind of made up for it down here, and I think that's why it's able to fit me, but there should be like more drama. That's okay though. I actually really like it. And it's super fuzzy. Like super soft, very silky, really beautiful mohair. It should be. It's a luxe mohair. Um But I actually think that that looks really nice. Let me know what you think. That's the Granada. It's been on the needles for 71 days. And I'm going to let's just go move forward with positivity. It'll be done next week. You just wait and see. I'll get her done. Oh, I love it. I think it'd be nice to wear for Easter. Hooray. I'm so excited. That was such a nice feeling. I was really terrified I was about to put that on and those sleeves weren't gonna fit, but I love the fit. I might like it better than it was supposed to have been just because, like I said, I'm like that drama. I don't know where I'm going. Sometimes I need to have that reality check that I live a rather boring life. I don't really need puffy sleeves, but sometimes you want the puffy sleeve, but I think that that's going to work out. Let me move now. I almost said this again where I'm like, do you want acquisitions or plans first? But I think I have a little bit more of a chatty plan thing. So let's get into that real quick. And then I just have a couple little acquisitions. So, plans. I I've decided to take some time this month to also just kind of hash out the plans, get some gauge swatches done. And that's been really fun to kind of have on the side as well. So let me show you the few gauge swatches that I have made. Actually, one of them was with the acquisition, so I'll just hang on to that because you've seen these yarns before. So these are two swatches I knit up this week. Let's start with this one. So this is Knit Picks Palette and their silk mohair that I'm spacing on the name of. I'll put the name and the color name on the screen here. And I just knit this up. This is going to eventually become the Clematis sweater by Emma Mare, and I'm really excited about that. So this still has to be blocked. Put that on pause for a second. And then this one is that Barocco Ultra Wool that I was talking about with Drops Kids Silk, their silk mohair. And the reason I kind of just want to chat about these two for a second is because I'm not someone who usually works with mohair, but it's just been something that I've been kind of itching to get on my needles and really get into my wardrobe recently. So these are two projects that I'm had a vision for them being like fuzzy, and I'm excited to do that. This one is for the Paul Cardigan by Morica Knit. Now, this combo, the palette and their mohair, I have to figure out what the name of that is. Here it is, the labels. It's palette and aloft. The aloft, so the mohair is called Mountain Fern Heather, and then the palette is Caper. This was a delightful knitting experience. This mohair, it is hairy. It is soft. Together, these two are soft. They have yet to be blocked, but I have so much excitement for the garment that this fabric is going to create. It's just so beautiful, and two very reasonably priced yarns, which I also got on sale. I think it was their Black Friday sale that I got these for when the yarns were 30% off. So that is something that I'm really excited about. And then this one, I definitely think that adding the mohair to the Ultra Wool is a good move because of those reasons I was talking about earlier, how the Ultra Wool feels just unpleasant on my hands. The mohair really did make a big difference. Now, I think looking at these two rather affordable silk mohair yarns, the Aloft from Knit Picks has a longer halo on it. And I would say it's just the teeniest bit softer, but it's hard to say since I'm kind of comparing them with two different yarns in the background. Now, they also both have a huge flaw, which if you follow me on Instagram at aka Nora Knits, you may have noticed that I was asking about this specifically for this guy in my stories because both of these mohairs, their silk core is white, or at least significantly lighter than the mohair itself. And in this swatch, it does not bother me one bit. But I think because this one, I was really envisioning this red cardigan just being this solid and bold and fuzzy, just staple piece. I'm kind of bothered, and it's so annoying to me. I'm bothered by the core. I think that it creates this more marled and kind of heathered effect than I really want for this garment because I plan to have this as like my pop of color cardigan. I really do intend to wear it with quite a bit of prints. I really pictured wearing this with my cheetah print jeans. I'm hoping to make some gingham pants this summer, and I think it would look great with those. So I'm kind of bothered by that lighter core. Now, the thing with the Ultra Wool too is this is the Ultra Wool on its own, and my goal with adding the mohair was not only for the texture and that knitting experience. I also had this vision of a fuzzy Paul cardigan, kind of the way that Morgan Knits has hers in the sample photos. But I also just felt like this red was ever so slightly a little bit dull, and so I wanted to add a little life to it by pairing it with a slightly brighter mohair. So the one that I chose is the Drops Kids Silk in their colorway 61. I think it's called Fire or something. So it's definitely more of an orangey red, but I just imagined this halo coming off of this yarn and giving me just that like perfect kind of bright primary, more poppy red. And while that is the effect it gives, the core I just think is so distracting. So I had put out a little questionnaire just asking if anyone had a recommendation for a mohair where you know for sure that the core would match the fuzz. Because I know I've heard people talk about this being an issue before, and so I'd love to know if you have experience with this, specifically a red silk mohair where the core matches the fuzz in a nice, vibrant, bright red. As it stands, I'm just kind of 50-50 on whether I will move on and knit this cardigan without mohair at all and just in the Ultra Wool DK, or will I bite the bullet and buy a different mohair, just knowing that I already invested in obviously a cheaper mohair for all of the reasons you would assume, it's an investment. But then to kind of table this and go buy even more mohair, more expensive mohair, I don't know that I'm willing to do all of that. So this might just be good enough for now, and I'm not sure. So I just want to know your feedback. I was even going to ask your opinion on the swatch, but I think I've already decided that this is just too busy for the things I know I want to pair it with. I think it will hinder my wearing of the cardigan, and that's not something I'm willing to sacrifice for a little fuzz. So if you have feedback for me on this, I do want to hear it. If you have suggestions, I'd love to know. I think that the Knitting for Olive soft silk mohair in the colorway red something looks promising online, but I don't have experience with it. So if you know, let me know. And if you happen to know of a red silk mohair that has a red core that also comes in like fairly budget friendly or a good place for a good deal, then let us know too, because this was a little disappointing and I was just kind of sad about that. But anyway, I'm glad that I swatched. Another good reason to go ahead and swatch before you knit it. So these two swatches, yeah, I can totally feel this one is softer. It's very nice. Very, very big fan of this Knit Picks yarn so far. So these have to be blocked. And then let me show you the final swatch that I knit up, which was from the acquisition that I had made this week. Like so many of us, I have been absolutely devastated to hear that all of the Joann's in Connecticut are closing. Maybe not all of them, but certainly all the ones I've ever been to. And so I did take a trip to one of them this week, and I found this yarn that I'd been eyeing for a little bit, so I decided to pick it up. It was 25% off, and that is the Knit and Crochet brand Cloud Paca. Now, this is another blown yarn. It's 28% polyamide, 14% merino wool superwash, and 58% baby alpaca in this really gorgeous bubblegum pink. It's called Cotton Candy. And after knitting my grayling dress in the Knit Picks Wonder Fluff blown yarn, all I want is blown yarn in my life. So when I saw this and it was on sale, I decided to grab it. I did knit up a swatch already, and I used the recommended needle size that's listed on here, whereas those last two swatches, those were both knit up with the recommended needle size for the respective patterns I plan to knit them into. I have a vision for this, but let me know if there's any pattern that you have in mind that you would knit up with this yarn. It's super soft. not as soft as the Wonder Fluff, but I have yet to block it, so it's subject to change. However, the price of it was really fair. If you could find this at your local Joann's and you're also looking to knit something in blown yarn, I think it was a really good deal, and it's a good way to just play with a color maybe you wouldn't normally choose, and just something to look out for at maybe at your local Joann's. So each ball of yarn was originally $7.99, and with the discount, they came to $4.92 a piece. And I believe I picked up 8 of them, 7 or 8. I was eyeing some patterns and just kind of used that yardage to let me know how much I should grab. And there was just plenty in this color. There wasn't any other color there, but I love this color so much. And I think it'll be really fun to have this little pop in my wardrobe. I'm really excited about it. But let me know if you have an idea for this swatch. And that's going to go and get blocked this week too. So that's everything. In a perfect world, by the time I see you next, I will have finished the Granada and hopefully I will have cast on for my Stitches sweater felted project experiment that I'm really looking forward to getting on the needles. And I'm realizing too that this project, the Stitches one, that's going to be the next cast on, but it's also going to be a very involved and mindful knit. So I'm trying to figure out what I should pair with it as my mindless knit. Something that would be a good fit coming into the spring, the warmer months, maybe a tank top. I'm not really sure. If there's anything you want to see me work on, I'm kind of open to suggestions, ideas right now. So definitely let me know if there's anything I've discussed and mentioned wanting to work on. If there's anything that spoke to you, let me know what it is that you're looking to see, because I could be influenced right now. I feel like I'm like a single knitter. I need like wouldn't that be fun? Like Tinder for knitting. Just random projects pop up and you can kind of like swipe right to see if you want to work on that one and swipe left when it doesn't speak to you. That's what I feel like I need right now. So if you want to be my knitting Tinder, then, hop into the comments and I'll either swipe right or left on you. With all that being said, little Miss OC herself has decided to join us for the closing of this video. If you did enjoy watching, I would so appreciate it if you would go ahead and give this video a thumbs up. If you subscribe and ring the bell, you're going to be notified anytime I post a new video. However, you can always count on there being a new one on Saturday mornings. On Saturday mornings at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. And with that, a big ol' thanks for watching. I'll catch you on the next one. All right, you guys. Bye.